Tyler!
Who died, Lee?
You!
Detective you?
Not you, you!
Who?
You!
Who?
Do you understand the words that are coming out from my mouth?
Don't nobody understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, man.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. I made a pretty short video on Thursday about the announcement from, I think her name is Stephanie Williams, one of the co-writers of Nubia and the Amazons, that one of the newest Amazons introduced in the first issue was going to be a trans Amazon. And in the video, which was quite tame for my channel, it was really late when I recorded. I didn't have a whole lot of time. It was really short. I specifically said, how does this fit into the lore of Wonder Woman and DC Comics? This doesn't feel like it should have happened. And I admitted freely, I'm not as up to Wonder Woman lore as everyone else. I said, if you could explain to me how this is possible in the comment section, I'd love to hear it. Apparently, that is considered hateful, or perhaps I was categorized as making a video for a hate group. I imagine this is because some of my viewers identify themselves as Comicsgate. Me personally, I don't, and I'm never going to condemn any of my viewers for if they want to say they're Comicsgate, if they're anti-Comicsgate. I don't really care. My channel is for anybody that's interested in comic books and wants to hear a perspective that perhaps is similar or different to theirs, with open ears, in an open mind. That's what my channel here is for. I'm only giving you my point of view on these things. And from my point of view, this change doesn't make sense within the DC Comics lore. But I'm certainly open to having my mind changed because I just don't know Wonder Woman lore all that much. And it was considered hateful for me to do this, specifically by the other co-writer of Nubia and the Amazons, Vita Ayala. Now, the only thing that I could imagine that could be taken as hateful even out of that video was when I said that Vita Ayala perhaps projects herself as a non-binary person into a lot of the stories that they write, where they end up writing characters or creating characters within DC, Marvel, basically any opportunity that they get, that essentially represent exactly who they are, which I don't think is probably the best way to go about writing new characters. You might be too invested in yourself when you write yourself into the story. I don't think that's hateful. I think that's criticism. And there's a big difference between hate and criticism. Sometimes I do razz some of the creators. Sometimes I try to make a joke here and there. Sometimes I might come off as a little bit gruff or rude, but I'm certainly not hateful. I don't have a lot of hate in my heart. I do this because I like comics. I like to have fun. I like interacting with the viewers. I certainly don't do it to placate anybody or provide inspirations for hate out there. And it's not like I've never made that criticism before in my life. I've certainly criticized Tom King more than any other person on my channel as far as comic book writers. As far as I know, straight white comic book writer who likes to project himself and his own personal feelings and whatever issues that he's going to into other characters, specifically Batman. Who else did he put into? Strange Adventures. We're going to be seeing it in Human Target pretty soon. Mr. Miracle. Basically, everything he writes is just this weird, mopey, miserable version of himself as a failing superhero. So it's not like I have just levied that criticism and held it special out for Vita Ayala or black non-binary comic book writers. In fact, I levied that particular criticism at Tom King more than anybody. And I have certainly criticized other writers for essentially creating the same character over and over and over, whether it's themselves or not. The other creator that I've criticized on my channel more than anybody outside of Tom King is Brian Michael Bendis. And one of the criticisms I've laid at the feet of Brian Michael Bendis, outside of the fact that he's an enormous windbag, cannot finish a story, is that he keeps creating the same characters over and over and over. How many times can he create Riri Williams? He's already done it twice at DC Comics, and somehow he still has a job there. So I have not held that criticism or that particular part of that criticism that I levied at Vita Ayala special for anyone. I've used that against straight white comic book writers, and now I've used it, that particular piece of criticism or feedback, if you may, against a non-binary black creator who I think, for the most part, is substandard in almost everything they've ever written. Specifically, go back and read Children of the Atom, which is absolutely awful. Criticism coming from me is not from a place of hate. I don't care who comes and watches my videos. You could have somebody out there that could be very hateful that likes my channel. That's not my problem. I'm not going to censor my opinions. I'm not going to censor my criticism because you don't like the audience or part of the audience that comes and watches my videos. I am not going to censor my criticism because there are creators out there that feel like they're part of a protected group and therefore are above criticism. And that's what you'll see levied out by Vita Ayala here, specifically at me, is that the only reason I could ever have a critical word about the writing that they have in the comic book industry, professional comic book writer, is because I must be a hateful person. Well, that just doesn't work. It doesn't actually fit into the reality of this world. I live the life that I live. I present myself as the person that I am. I am not hateful. I do not go out there and treat people bad based on their race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender identity, or anything like that. Sometimes it annoys my viewers when I will go out there and try to use use the pronouns that some certain creators would like. I do it to the best of my ability. Want to know why? Because I don't give a shit. If you want to use different pronouns, go for it. I will try to accommodate you the best that I can, as long as I know beforehand what you would like to be called. Some people would say, Wes, you're a pussy. I don't give a fuck. I think it's just polite, right? It's the least I can do. It doesn't bother me to go out there and use somebody's pronouns. I will afford anyone that little nicety if it makes them feel better. I don't care about stuff like that. I don't care about anyone's sexual orientation. I have plenty of LGBTQ plus representative people, whether they be from the comic book industry, fans or whatnot, that come here and visit me on this channel, and we talk about comics all the time. Rarely does their sexuality ever actually come up, because that's not what the conversation's about. Sometimes it has here and there because it's part of the narrative or the conversation that we're having. But for the most part, I don't give a fuck. I do not treat people poorly because of their race or ethnicity. I have plenty of non-white contributors to the channel. Now you say, well, Wes, you and Javane, you guys specifically on It's Complicated, you will talk about items that definitely delve more into race. Absolutely. Because Javane and I can have civilized conversations about stuff like that, even though I'm a white guy and he's a black guy. And we want to show people that you can have these kinds of conversations, that you can have healthy discourse on topics that you vehemently disagree with. And at the end of the day, you can still be friends. I think it serves a place within the channel and within YouTube to have these conversations. But if we weren't talking about that, Jervain and I would be talking about comic books, because I don't give a fuck. I really don't care. I'm not that interested in your life. Whether you're, I'm not interested in your race or ethnicity. I'm not interested in your sexual orientation. I'm not all that interested in your gender identity. I'm not interested in your marital status. I don't even care what your religious status is. Yeah, I'll admit I'm a Christian. I have friends that are Christian. There are plenty of contributors to this very channel right here that are atheists or of different faiths than me. I don't care. This is a comic book channel, is a comic book criticism channel, whether that criticism is positive or negative. This whole idea that there's anybody out there that has been so hurt or marginalized that they become above criticism on their professional work that other people are out there paying for is absolutely ridiculous. I treat nobody special, regardless of how they look, who they sleep with, or what gender they feel like they are, because it's really none of my business at the end of the day. I only care about the comic books. If Vita Ayala had never said I'm a black non-binary person, I wouldn't know it, because I don't care. Now, I've also seen apparently that Vita Ayala is out there claiming that they blocked me and that everyone else should block me too. VI Alice had me blocked for over 3 years. You know how I know VI Alice had me blocked that long? Because when they released or they announced Livewire on Valiant, when I was still reading Valiant at the time, when it was the best comic publisher in the industry, here's a hint. Not Livewire, but Harbinger Wars 2 was the beginning of the end for Valiant, and Livewire coming in afterwards really hammered that home because it was so terrible. There's a link to the writer. I went to click it to see who they were, and I was blocked. And that was the first time I've ever heard of VIL. So the idea that all of a sudden VIL has decided to block me, or it's because of the way I've talked to anybody, or I've conducted myself, or any of the memes I've made, or any of the points that I've made on Twitter or on my channel, and that's the reason I've been blocked, is absolutely ridiculous. They block me because they use a blockchain. Whatever. I block VIL back. None of my no skin off my back. I don't care if people block me. I know it annoys a lot of other people. There was a time when I would go through, before I would put any comic book on my pull list or would even buy a comic book, I would check the creators to see if I was blocked or to see how they were conducting themselves. But we're way past that. I haven't done that since well before I even started the channel, because I just don't care anymore. So you can go and tell people to block away. Listen, if my very inoffensive Newbie in the Amazon's first trans Amazon video is so offensive to you that you need to block me, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. That video was as unspicy as anything I've ever presented. And be completely honest, I don't care about Newbie in the Amazons. I didn't read the damn book, and I never planned on reading it. You say, Wes, but you read it now. No, I didn't. I read the article. And I made a video about the article because I don't care about the comic book. I'm not interested in Nubia or the Amazons, to be completely honest. There hasn't been a Wonder Woman comic book worth reading in like 9 years. So you say, well, Wes, then why would you cover it? Well, I particularly do avoid topics that I'm not interested in or comic books that I'm planning on reading. But in this case, the subject matter essentially ties directly in to what I've been talking about here on my channel for 4 or 5 months now, that DC Comics are pushing in a hard manner a new progressive agenda, and we're seeing it rapidly speed up. This one happened right on the coattails of the John Kent story. It was so so fast afterwards, they didn't even announce it. It didn't even make a headline, or at least in DC's eyes, it didn't make a headline. They didn't release it on their website. They didn't release the information. The actual creator had to do it. The creator no one's ever heard of because they never actually written a comic book outside of Webtoons before. So this idea that I'm a hateful person, listen, I've been called a lot of things on this channel. A lot of them are ridiculous. You want to call me an asshole? I'll buy that. You want to call me a cynical jerk? Absolutely. Let's eat that one up. You can call me a lot of things. What have I told? I'm xenophobic. Listen, I live in the Philippines with my Asian wife and my 3 half-Asian children. There are no white people in my neighborhood. In fact, I don't know a white person in this town. The only people that are the same race as me that I talk to are when I'm doing videos for the channel and when I contact my brothers, and some friends back home every once in a while, which isn't nearly as often as it should be. So that one's absolutely ridiculous. And the idea that, I'm just a hateful person. No, you don't get to pick and choose what parts of my life actually get to play into my personality. It's not by coincidence. It's not a mere joke that all of a sudden I actually went out there and married somebody of a different ethnicity and then decided to retire and settle down in another country. If I was a racist a-hole, if I was a xenophobe, I wouldn't do this. It's absolutely ridiculous. Think about what you're trying to say. Think about the mental gymnastics that you have to put into your head so you can come up with the idea that I'm that person, or that's how I'm conducting myself. My actions speak much louder than any of my words on this channel ever could. And I try to be as forthright, open with everybody as I possibly can. If I hated minorities, I wouldn't have minority contributors on the channel. If I hated LGBTQ people, I wouldn't have LGBTQ people on the channel. You say, well, Wes, you never had a trans person on the channel. Well, that's true. I don't know a lot of trans comic book fans, Never had one reach out to me and say they want to be on the channel. If there is one in the comments section that's saying interesting stuff, I didn't know that they were trans. So who am I supposed to go out there and invite on the channel? I can tell you this: when my wife and I got married, when we had our reception, there was absolutely multiple trans people there. I've had multiple trans people in my house. We've had, had them over for drinks and all that kind of stuff. I could give a shit. It's not my business. You want to come in and have a few drinks? Let's go have some fun. That stuff doesn't bother me. Do I have a hateful tone about me sometimes? You know what? I think mostly I'm sarcastic. I think mostly my sarcasm, and sometimes it is a dry sarcasm that bleeds over in here in this channel while I'm delivering some of the stuff that I think is more funny or mundane. And I put it out there, and I guess that could be interpreted the wrong way. But I don't think I'm a hateful person at all. There are channels out there that produce and talk about the same information that I do, and I don't think I go near as far as anyone else. Because that's just not who I am. I could be the world's biggest jerk off on this channel and say some pretty crazy stuff, but I choose not to because that's not who I am, and that's not how I want to conduct myself. So you can deflect my criticism all you want by trying to say that I'm a hateful person or that I'm part of a hate group. Just not true. Absolutely false. And the fact that you are unwilling to accept any criticism and you have a big shield that is your sexual identity or your gender identity that says I'm impervious to criticism from anybody, just lets me know that you're a hack writer anyway. If you wanted to get better, you'll be listening to feedback. You'll be looking for criticism of why you could improve as a comic writer. And I'm not just talking to VIL. I'm talking to any comic writer out there. If you're not listening to your critics, if you're not listening to the feedback, you'll never get better. And that's just that's a fact, Jack. I'm not going to stop being critical. I'm not going to stop being critical of bad comic books, regardless of the race, gender, religion, sexual identity, orientation, gender identity of anybody. I would treat everybody equally. You write a shitty comic, I give you a nice funny video about it to explain why it was shitty. Hey, and if you just do it on the indie scenes, I don't talk about that stuff because who gives a shit? It's indie stuff for the most part. Outside of a few titles, they really are important. The only stuff I talk about and cover right here, for the most part, in a negative manner, are DC and Marvel because they're the only ones that have characters that I actually give a shit about long term. Outside of Valiant, and of course, I do have a video another day or two to talk about Valiant, but outside that, I don't talk about it because I don't care. So there you go. I ain't stopping. I'm not hateful. I'm sorry you can't take criticism, but that's on you, not me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.